The ball dropping. Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda Calendar, and welcome to the More Sugar Podcast, where there's always something more. The purpose of my podcast was derived from my book, Sugar and My Grits, Grief to Gratitude Through Grace, conversations I was having with my friends around grief, and conversations to help heal and encourage other people. Just recently, I have my friend here, Tamisha Harris. Just recently, I made a trip to New Jersey for work, and I had great time with some of my friends. And from those conversations, I noticed that a lot of my friends was losing their mothers. And I knew also a lot of friends whose mothers had already passed on. And so I wanted to kind of do something to encourage everyone along the way, because sometimes all we have is each other. And so the reason why I picked Tamisha, I'm going to let her, I'm going to say why I picked her, and then I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us about her mom and when did she pass away and how. Me and Tamisha have been friends for about almost 20 years, maybe more, since we was like 15. And her mother's death was one of the first mothers that I've known to pass away. And so when the idea for this podcast came to mind, she immediately came to mind. And I'm just thankful that she decided to do it. So with that being said, I've done podcasts before, but this is my first visual. And God willing, in a couple of years, when we're doing big things, we're going to look back on this podcast and say, look where we came from.
Right.
And I'm just grateful and glad that you said yes. So it's New Year's Eve and we're recording this. So I'm grateful that she took some time. So if I sip, this is a very, very emotional topic for a lot of people. So if I sip along the way, then go ahead, friend, take it away.
All right. So my name is Tamisha. Mandy asked me to do this podcast. At first, I was like, I wasn't too sure. But then I was like, you never know who you can help along the way, like she said. My mother's been gone since 1995. I was 17 years old. My mom was 38 years old when she passed. Around that time, my mother she died from cervical cancer. Something that was very new to all of us. Nobody really knew much about what cervical cancer was, how it existed, none of that. So my mother's death took a big toll on me, my friends, and the community. It was just a really dark place for me, dark place for me.
Okay, so 1995 was a very, very long time ago. You 17 years old.
Very long.
How old now?
I'm 45 years old.
So that's almost more than half your life.
Exactly.
And so
exactly.
How much do you remember about your mother, and what is your favorite memory?
Okay. I remember a lot about my mother. So growing up, I grew up in a household with a mother and father. So we were very family orientated. We grew up in a religious household. My family was Jehovah's Witnesses. So I remember a lot about my mother. My mother taught me a lot. I know one thing that I did, watch my mother growing up, very clean, never went outside without getting dressed, some of the things that I do now. She instilled a lot of morals in me. A lot of morals in me. I remember, it's just like my mother been out of my life so long, but I tried to live my life still trying to think of her and make her happy. Like, what would she say if she was here? The struggle that I had being 17 years old, it was like, that's the time when I needed my mother the most. My mother's death, it was very, very hard because she was the one who kept our family together. So once my mother died, like most of my family drifted apart. To the point, her and my dad was married for like 21 years at the time, and she took her last breath in his arms. My father actually left us after my mother died. Like, he literally stopped coming around, stopped coming home, and my father was like the head of the household. He was there. So it was like...
dealing with his own grief, obviously. He
dealing with his own grief. And it was like, he was a human form, but he died with her. So he was just existing. He didn't
like a love story.
Right. That was all he had. That was all he knew. And it was hard for me because I had to figure it out. Me and my brother had to figure it out. I really didn't know the answers. I didn't understand what death was at the time. Like, I just knew, I watched my mother suffer a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to say, I'm going to be okay. Don't cry. I'm good. But you really don't understand what okay is. Back in that time, when people say they're going to be okay, basically they knew that they were going to go and they had peace with their higher power. But me, as a 17-year-old, you're not thinking that. You just know, okay, my mom's going to be okay. She's going to get better. And if I had known that that's what she had meant, I probably would have asked more questions. I probably would have. I spent as much time with her as I could, because she died at home with hospice. Mm-hmm. But I definitely would have had a lot more questions.
Are you afraid that you'll forget her one day? Because, like, in this age of social media, right now we take a lot of pictures. Everything is these iPhones and splattered on social media, and I realized that my grandmother's birthday had just passed, and I realized, like, she died so long ago. I find myself posting the same picture over and over and over again because that's all I have, and I don't remember her voice. It's just little things that she said. So my fear is always that. So that was a question that I wanted to ask you. Like, one day, are you afraid that you're going to wake up and it's like...
Well, I can't do that because I'm a splitting image of her. So when I look at myself, I see my mother.
Okay.
Anybody that knows me know I look exactly like my mother. Even with my dad being in a nursing facility, me going to see him with slight dementia he has. Some days when I walk in, he calls me my mother, and some days I'm his daughter. So I don't think that's something that I could forget. I'm very grateful that I had the upbringing that I had with my parents, because it laid the foundation for me. Even though I went through a really deep depression and struggle after my mother died, it's still certain things. Like I tell people, the way you were raised, sometimes you'll always come back to that. Those things are instilled in you. So I know that I have a lot of my mother ways, because as she was dying, my mother was very into herbs and holistics. So that's one thing I'm into. I watched my mother, like I said, get dressed every day. She would put on makeup. She would, she always said, you go out the house and you got to look presentable. It was just the foundation we had. I would have never thought that I was to experience my life without my mother.
So you can say to everybody that you date, you're welcome. Like, it was like, you're welcome.
What you mean?
Because you put effort into... Because that's how what you seen your mother do. You put effort. So you just don't leave it out the house like any type of way.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to. Even with cleanliness, certain things is instilled in you. Like, as you grow up a certain way, even with me growing up being a Jehovah's Witness, like, at some point, you go back to what you were raised at, or you try to look into it, or you try to see, because you don't want to always take on something just because you was raised that way. It's not, sometimes you don't have a choice when you're growing up. You do what you told, you do what you see. You don't have a choice. So as you get older, it's time for you to make those choices yourself. One thing my mother did, she was very close with the little friendships that she did have. My mother wasn't like a person that be around like a whole lot of people, but the friendships she had, she valued. And that is me. I take my friendships very seriously. I have a great set of friends. I don't see how people could even exist in this world saying that they don't even have good friends, because they know my story. They've been there through the ride. So they give me comfort. Like,
right. That's good. What is grief to you? Like, grief is something to different to everybody. Some people think grief has its ebbs and flows. Some people think of grief as something really low, and some people just can manage to push through. What did grief look like for you? And even if you, as a 17-year-old, you probably didn't know what that was. But now, as an adult, you can put adjectives to those feelings. What do you say that grief is? What would you say grief is to you?
Okay, so grief is like grief could be in a relationship. Anything that you lose that you are close to, or grief could be in a friendship. Anything lost, something that you lost that's dearing to you. So with me growing up with the loss of my mother, I didn't realize until I got to a place where I started seeking counseling.
Okay.
What I was going through. The way that
because we was kind of lit, like after your mom died.
Right.
When I say we was kind of lit, we all like rallied around you. I don't mean to interject, but like thinking of it from my perspective, watching you move in that, and I was like, damn, she fine, right? And I'm not thinking because we all the same age. And I'm a little older, but I'm thinking like, damn, Tamisha handling it like a G. Like you said, your dad left, so you survived.
Right. So, and I think that's the perception people have. They see my strength. So everybody have this thing where, oh, Tamisha, you so strong, but they don't understand sometimes you're behind four walls too. So when I realized, I said, Tamisha, like I realized that certain relationships, and I wouldn't say friendships, like even like dating people, talking to people, I didn't realize that what I experienced as a child was a form of abandonment. So even by my mother dying, my father leaving me, it still was a form of abandonment, even though it wasn't like they intentionally neglect me. It's still a form of abandonment. So because of that, I start picking up abandonment traits and didn't realize it. So say if I'm close to someone and you do something that hurt me or make me feel some type of way, it was nothing for me to just walk away from that, because it was like I was so used to being walked away from, whether it was from death, whether it was from. So, like I feel like if I'm a good person to you and you do something to me, I don't really have to explain myself to you. I could just abandon you. These was things that I was doing and they were affecting different relationships, but you don't realize that until you get older. And it's like, okay, you're numb. So when you guys were thinking I was okay, it's more so you're numb. You're trying to maneuver through things. And as you keep picking up the same patterns, it's like you need to, dig a little deeper. And that's where therapy comes in.
So because of that, I'm gonna switch the order of the question since we're talking about it. It says that as friends we talk a lot, and I'm grateful for that, because most friendships are so. I'm all sobbing and shit. Most friendships are so superficial, but it's times me and you talk on the phone for hours at a time, like so randomly. I can pick up the phone and call you and we'll just talk. And I'm like, man, when I hang up, I say, damn, I should have had the mic on, because it's not just checking in on each other. It's vibing on a different level. It's communicating, talking about relationships. We had when we had dinner when I was in New Jersey at the Cheesecake Factory. If it wasn't so loud, I wanted to turn on my phone and just slide the mic across the table. But I cherish those friendships. And so, like I said, me at that age, I was running from things at home as well at the time your mom died. And so your house was like a respite for me, like a refuge. And so it was like we survived together. I slept on your couch for years, like more than a night. When somebody sleep on somebody's couch, it's normally for a night. I think I moved in at some point. But and I just watched you hustle. Right, the pay. We as kids had an apartment for a very long time. Right, paid the bills, the lights was on. Whatever, somebody made money somewhere. This is how much the rent is. We gonna pay this rent. We gonna pay this phone bill. It was scary, but it was so fun because we had each other, and those are bonds that can't be broken. And I say all to say, going through that at some point. We speak about mental health and therapy a lot. At what point?
Wait, before you go to that question, I want to go back because you said as far as like the hustle part. So you know me as a person, I always worked hard. I always got more than one job, and I think even with that gives me a safe place. So, remember when like at the end towards like when everybody was staying with me and y'all was there, and then at some point, it had to end. We had to go. My father was like, okay, it had to end.
So my dad was gonna say, hey, them kids living by themselves.
Right, like so it had to end. So at that point, I had to kind of like, being that I had to figure it out, I've always been a hard worker because of the abandonment issues. I never wanted to be in a situation where I felt abandoned. So I will always hustle. I will always work. And people are like, you got more than one job? I'm like, yeah, because they won't let me go. At least I got another one. Because I never wanted to feel that part, not being abandoned. I wanted to make sure that I show up for myself all the time.
Yeah, so
I
that just
never wanted
in personal life.
Right. I never wanted no one else to even have the opportunity to abandon me.
Okay.
And that's another thing I say with relationships, because of the pain that I felt from my mother's death. Anytime someone does something to hurt me and me dismiss them or cut them out of my life, because of the pain that I felt, I never want to relive that. So I don't give people an opportunity to do it again.
So with doing that, does that kind of like you're not giving your relationships 100%?
That's the problem. I do give 100%, but I don't give you I don't give, and even with friendships, that's why I say I love my friendships, because we could keep it real with each other. If I do something to you, you do something to me. And if you communicate that to me, we can work on it. But I'm not a mind reader. Nobody's a mind reader. But I feel like and you know what, in a way, it is kind of like you're running from stuff, because even, by you not giving people a chance, but in some instances, how many chances you give people, and in some instances, okay, I ain't about to give you a whole bunch of chances, because I feel like some things is just people. Like, if you are who you are, and I ain't giving you a second chance, But yeah, so bad. I'm cut you off when you was going to mental health.
No, we had this conversation. So, I said we speak a lot about mental health and therapy. At what point did you realize I can't do this on my own anymore? I need some type of therapy, because that's a taboo. Now, therapy is taboo not only in the Black community but in religious communities, because some religions are like, oh my God, just pray, it'll go away. The depression.
Well, I couldn't do it because I grew up. I prayed a lot, even when I went through my deep dark side. I prayed a lot, and I think God gives you free will to make the right choices. So he's the one he's there for you. He protects you, but you got to do some work yourself. Right. At the end of the day, nobody's coming to save you. You have to figure it out. Like it is what it is. Nobody's coming to save you. So if you choose to stay in that dark place, that's kind of like a choice, So I felt like I needed to dig deeper to understand, because I have a son. I have close friends. I have people I love, and I don't want to bring my damaged traits on to other people and hurt those relationships. So you definitely have to, dig deeper and I'll tell anybody with therapy, I may have went to do maybe like 3 or 4 therapists. Sometimes it may not even be the first therapist that you go through that you feel comfortable with. You have to do the work and find where you're comfortable at and what's working for you.
Right. I think we lost your internet.
Really? Let me see.
Yeah.
Where I'm at.
You working through?
I'm here. So what we missed?
Okay. Nothing. We still on. I just can't see you. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay. That's all that matters.
As long as you can hear me, that's good. So.
Yep. That's good. That's all that matters. Yeah. So, you said something. Oh, there you go. You said something about coming out of a dark place is a choice.
Yes. Well, for me, it was because, and everybody's different. Everybody's grieving process is
right, because there's some dark places I've seen people that it's hard to come out of.
Right. So when I say, I'm going to speak for myself, I'm not going to speak for others, because mental illness, trust me, people don't understand. It's not something that's selfish. It's something that is very fragile, and everybody can't come out of a dark place. Right. So when I say dark place, I'm meaning for myself. When I wake up every day, if I'm going to choose to be happy or sad, if I choose to do, you know what I'm saying? That's my dark place. And if I don't want to live that, I have to do what I need to do not to feel that way every day. Gotcha. I just feel like doing the work, because you have to look at your relationships and your patterns. And if you keep getting the same outcome from everything you do, sometimes it's up to you to do the work. you know, and a
Yeah,
lot of
no,
things.
not sometimes. It's all the time up to you, beautiful. Because you just like you literally just said, no one's coming to save you.
Yes,
And we have
yes,
those friends like we check on each other,
right,
right? But I always say sometimes you got to if it is a burning building, I'm coming to get you. I don't want to drag you out. I need you to help me,
right, right,
get you out of this
right,
spot.
right.
So when we say there's no one coming to get you, if you got friends like us, someone's coming to get you.
They're gonna try.
They're gonna try.
But no matter, even if you trying and I'm not ready, it don't matter how much you try. If I'm not ready, you could try as many times as you want to. But if I'm not trying, it's pointless.
You got to be ready. And one of my questions was, how do you honor your mother and keep her memory alive? But you kind of already touched on that when you said not do you only look like her, but the fact that you get up every day with and you practice all these values that she instilled in you every single day.
Yeah, but one thing I wish I would have did that she did was keep the family together. My mother was very family oriented.
17, friend.
Exactly. But as I got older, as I got older, I wish that I would have been able to do those things. But I stayed. It took me a while to even seek counseling. Okay. So the thing is, I couldn't really show up for those people in my life that, like my family members, because I couldn't show up for myself. I wasn't even showing up for me. It took me a while to show up for me, no matter how much I maneuvered through life, no matter how much it may have looked. I had to figure out a way to show up for me. So a lot of relationships I may not have because of that, because I didn't have the overflow or even know what to do to be there for people.
But again, that goes back to good friendships, because if somebody know you got it. Sometimes friendships are so selfish. People don't understand, like, well, maybe she's going through a bad time right now. Let me give her some grace. And I have a habit. And it took me a point to where I needed grace to be able to extend grace. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's what most people, I don't want to give anybody a break or forgive anybody for anything until you go into God on your hands and knees, snotting and hollering, and you're like, wait a minute, if he's going to do this for me, then why can't I do this for somebody else? So that's my, you kind of like answering these questions with regular answers. Another question was, parents play a critical role in our self-confidence and sense of purpose in our lives. How did you develop these things without your mom? Like, from what I hear, and when I'm reading these books and these therapists and the social media posts, a mother-daughter bond is supposed to be so tight. Apparently, are we left to assume that you had already sealed that at 17 before she passed, that was enough to carry you through?
It had to be. It had to be, because I did it. I mean, even though there's other people come in your life, they may be close to you, they're still not your mother. Mm-hmm. And I think what saved me in my life the most was my son, because being in that dark place, it was like you feel like you really don't have much to live for because of your struggle, your abandonment and everything. So my son had saved me from a lot of things that I may have felt or that I was going through, because it was genuine love. So
how old was you when you had him?
I had him when I was 19, which was 2 years after my mom died.
Oh, so he came at a pretty good time.
Oh, he came at a perfect time.
Perfect time, right? That's 2 years in.
Even though I know that if my mother was here because of me being raised, I probably wouldn't have had him, because being raised a certain way, you don't have kids out of wedlock, certain things like that. Right. But he probably wouldn't have been.
Saved your life.
Yeah, he basically saved my life. And because even when I was in a dark place and I started going to therapy when I had my son, it was like, because of what I felt living without a mother, I never wanted him to experience that if I had control of it. So if something accidentally happens to me, he can't control. But as long as I could exist and keep doing what I need to do for him, I'm going to show up for my son so he doesn't have to experience that.
That's exactly what made me want to be a better mother each and every single day.
Right.
Okay. So social media, it plays a huge part in our life and culture. Everybody knows this. Does social media play a role in how you grieve? Now, the reason why I asked you this question was because my mother's been my mother passed away in 1999, which wasn't too long after your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching the Meghan and Harry documentary, and I'm watching Princess Diana's funeral, and I'm just boohoo crying. And I realized I wasn't boohoo crying for Princess Diana. I was boohoo crying because my mother was dead.
Right.
Right. And so the social media, things you see on social media, or things like, we got to be careful the energies we take in. Does
Right.
that affect, play a role in the ebbs and flows of your grief?
Well, I try to monitor who I follow, what I see, because people will drain you. Social media will drain you. A lot of times, like even when my mom died, I didn't have like pictures up of her. I didn't have, because that was something that took me to a dark place. So a lot of times on social media, if I know like someone that has someone that's dear to them that passed, and I see that they post a lot, that's their grieving.
Right.
But
attention seeking.
Yeah, that too. But it's like at some point I feel like it can drain you. So sometimes you're like, let me take a break from this, because like I said, everybody grieves different. Like I'm the type that if I know something is gonna make me sad, like I hear people say, oh, I'm gonna go to the cemetery to see my mother, and then they come back, they boohoo, they crying. I'm not saying don't go see your mother. Or if they sitting there looking through pictures. If I feel like if something is gonna put you in a place of sadness, then you should try to find a different way to cope, because there are healthy coping ways that you could cope versus just, going through pictures, going to a cemetery. You have to get do that hump of the grief. You have to go do the work and be okay, because you're not okay if you still go there with the same experience that you had in the beginning. Like you have to grow to be able to go there and say, I'm okay, because a lot
it's
of
like
times,
getting through a Mary J. Blige song and not crying.
that was our jam. We went through that was our jam. But
if we can get through the My Life album with no tears, you are healing. You're on the road to healing.
Yeah. So now I could listen to certain songs and certain things, but I went through so much, and I don't choose to be in that place anymore. Like I choose love. I choose happiness.
Choices. Yes.
Yeah, like when I wake up and sometimes I may not have a good day, I'll be like, you got 5 minutes to get it together, girl. Like the world don't stop.
5 minutes.
Yeah, like the world don't stop because of you. So if I know something is going to put me in a sad place, I don't do it. And I see that like sometimes social media, a lot of people, but this is new to them. This is their grieving. Like I have friends whose mother just passed recently, and I wish the time that they had their mother in their life, I had my mother in my life that long.
Yeah.
My mother hasn't been in my life more than she has been. I would love to have and cherish those memories. Like if I could tell anybody, cherish those memories. Your mother wouldn't want you to sit and be sad all the time, or you're gonna go through it. Feel what you need to feel. You're human. Don't, because when I was numb, when you first met me, I wasn't really sitting in the pain and I was numb. But you have to feel. You have to find a way. If you want to feel it, feel it. You have to get through it, but don't sit there too long, because I don't think any one mother would want them to be really, sad and miserable. You just have to find healthy ways of coping. And I think
that's the key word, healthy ways of coping.
Yeah. And you have to find a therapist that works for you if you choose to seek therapy.
Yeah. One of my questions was like, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You good.
I said one of my questions was, every family member grieves differently, and did the death of your mom strain relationships of family members? But clearly it did.
Oh, me, my brother, my father, my family.
Yeah, I was about to say, you was pretty, you was strong with it, which was good. It made it for a good conversation and not so much a question and answer session.
Yeah, my brother's still grieving to this day because he never sought help. He never, he still live in the past. When we talk, it's always about my mother.
Because he never got the help that you did.
Oh, never. He calls me on her death day. He calls me on her birthday. He never really took the time to really, I don't think he even know where to start. And now that I'm in a different place, I could probably assist him.
Mm-hmm.
But when I tell people, if it don't come from my overflow, like, I'm not going to damage my mental health for someone else, because people will really drain you. So if I don't have that extra overflow, like when I wake up in the morning and my glass not filled over, you could get that's the pour over. You can't get, the rim, because I need this for me.
Right.
So you have to get to that place in your life.
Lastly, what encouragement or hope can you offer someone who doesn't believe in a higher power or does not feel like God is working on their behalf?
So,
because we're clearly faithful people. You said you leaned on your faith heavily.
Because I was raised that way.
Right.
Like, I think because of my upbringing, that was instilled in me. You have a lot of people now, they talk more about the universe. They feel like they could burn sage and kill whatever's around them. And I'm not knocking anybody for what you think or what you believe. I think if you're going to believe in it, have faith and believe it to the T. Be strong about,
go over the waterfall and the ground with that faith.
Be strong about what you believe. Stand in what you believe in. Don't just do something because it's the thing that's the latest thing that's popping or whatever. Or do your research and see what's worked for you, Yeah. Nobody's definitely coming to save you. You definitely have to do the work. Like, I encourage anybody, just try to put yourself in a mindset of just being happy and think of the good stuff, the good memories. Surround yourself with good people that's gonna support you along the way. You definitely need those healthy relationships. Find healthy ways to cope. It's easier to pick up a glass or smoke or even, sex. All of that is a form of grieving that people go through. So you can't really judge people. And the way I live my life now, I don't take everything personal. Because people are really struggling with mental illness. So my thing is, when someone does something to me, I'll be like, oh, well, maybe she just wasn't having a good day, or maybe she going through something, because people don't share those things with you all the time. So give people, like you said, give them some grace. People are really struggling. Give them a break. If you take everything personal, you'll be real miserable out here. You just can't take things personal. Not everything. It's not that serious.
I really wish that people had another friend of mine who I met a couple of years ago. A lot of people watch things on social media. They watch your interactions with people. They watch your movements. And she said that she was envious of my circle and my village. And I said to her, I was like, that's not something that I just went out and put together. That's years of being who I am. And my authentic self, and bumps and bruises, and showing up for people, and people showing up for me. Yeah. And I'm just grateful that I have a village of friends, genuine friends.
Right.
And the funny thing is our son is 7, and he said the other day he had a dream that he got married, and in his dream he's mentioning these names of people, and it just made me smile, because I said these are people that he see around all the time. Right. And I'm just grateful that you had the wherewithal to keep going, and that we're friends, and that I'm a part of your life, and that we was able to share this great couple of minutes with people. And I hope that this conversation touches somebody, to help them, to heal them, and then encourage them to go on. Because losing a mother is hard, man.
It is.
I blocked it out, and I didn't want to deal with it 2 years later. So I ended up with compounded grief. So compounded grief is grief, type of grief on top of grief, and then you realize one day that you just explode. And so another friend of ours is in our circle. She's coming up on the Soul Sessions. Not next, but next after next.
Right.
And I can't wait to have that conversation with her, because she's like the little sister.
Right. And it's new. It's new to her.
And my heart broke for her. When you love somebody, you don't want
definitely. That's my little sister. That was my mother, other child.
Yeah.
And she never missed a beat.
For her.
Yeah, she was, that's my little sister. And the thing is, when it's new, it's kind of hard, you know, when it's new, especially when you still trying to get through with your family. You got like, she's trying to show up for everybody, but when do you take a break for yourself and show up for yourself? Sometimes you have to take a break from everyone just so you can show up for yourself, you know? So yeah, but
and sometimes you just need that encouragement from your friends, your outside circle, and not the people on the inside,
right?
Like, the ones that's gonna always be there, and it just warmed my heart. I'm gonna leave some of that for me and her conversation. But like, he was at the repast, like serving food, and I couldn't be there, so I stopped by the morning before and like rung the bell, ding dong. Look, I can't. I gotta work. I can't be there, but I know you can do this, right? And she wasn't even expecting. She's like, "Who's at the door?"
But that's one thing about us. Like, when I say we show up for, we cannot.
We show up.
We show up for each other. Like, we don't care what it is. And like, I'm at, like, even with me in my life, if you call me for something, I'm not questioning you why you need me. Just tell me what you need me for. Because all of that ain't even important. I'm here. You need me, I'm there. You know? So that's,
I would say, good.
No, them friendships is, you know, and you outgrow people. I can't really say, but most of my friends, they've been in my life forever, and even new people, like, you know, like, I
can't even say we outgrew each other. I think we kind of grew together. Even though
we grew together, right?
Yeah, we did go together, which is a blessing, because I've outgrew friends that I've met 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and already I'm like, dude.
Yeah, you do too much. Like, you start comparing people, like, my friends don't do this. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, nah, I don't know what my riders.
Yeah, my regular friends, they don't do this. Like, nah, you got to go.
Like,
you know?
What is you want? And I think that we're blessed to have that, and I pray that it's kind of hard to find that late in life, and I just think that we're part of the few that have that. And I just think that we're blessed to have it. And I think this conversation will actually help somebody. You definitely drop some gems. I'm appreciative. I love you. I know it's New Year's Eve.
Exactly. And
I'm going to let you go.
You know I'm about to go.
You about to go hang with the rest of the family. You know what I'm saying? You about to go hang with the rest of the crew.
Yes, you know me. I love my friends.
Like, these
That's
my
another
sisters.
thing I would tell people. Music puts you in a good place too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I love music. Turn you
it can either put you in a good place or have you on the bathroom floor.
On a Mary J. Blige, please. But nah, I ain't in that place. Like, I just
every time, but it's good memories now. Every time I hear that Mary's joint and that beat drop, I just think, and everything of us in that living room, man.
With a boom box, yo, we
made it. We made it work. Yo,
eating chicken wings and rice and gravy from the Chinese store. Like, we used to have to share platters. Like, you know, like, yo, it was serious. It was serious.
Yeah, like, we got friendship. So thank you, friend.
You welcome.
I love
friend.
you.
I love you. I love you.
Keep your mom memory alive. You know, Miss Harris, she was an amazing. I remember y'all first moved into the town. So I was like, oh we got a new family in the
I never felt so well. Like, we moved from another neighborhood. They was outside on the bench, everybody waiting for us to pull up, welcoming us. I'm like, yo, this is crazy, you know. But yeah,
and that green thing, we said right on that green thing forever, all night long. It was good times. It was good times. So I want to say, if I don't talk to you before the ball drop, Happy New Year, and thank you for gracing the More Sugar podcast with your presence. And you know, I'm gonna call on you again for something else. It's gonna be something else.
I'm here. As long as I got the breath in me, you know I'm here. So.
We about to be lit with this. So again, thank you.
All right. Love you, friend.
And Happy New Year.
You too. Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.